This music video was shot on 2 cameras from the Sony FX line, the Sony FX6 and the Sony FX3. I directed, shot, edited and color graded the whole thing, and honestly I can't even tell the difference. In this episode I'm going to briefly talk about how these cameras worked side by side together on set. But the main focus of today's episode is going to be about the lenses that I used. From zoom lenses to primes, I used a variety of lenses in this project, and each has its own pros and cons. This episode isn't about whether primes or whether zooms are better than each other. It's just about giving you an understanding of how they can work differently for you in your projects. As we dive into the pros and cons of prime and zoom lenses, I'll show you the S-Log3 footage that was shot on both the FX3 and the FX6. You'll get to see both of the ungraded footage from both cameras and the final graded version. So you can see just how far you can actually push these images in post-production. By the way, I used my own LUT on this footage called the GOAT LUT. It's my all-time favorite LUT, and it deserves to be used by filmmakers like you. For this music video, I used the 35mm and the 50mm prime lenses. Let's compare a shot using the 24 to 70mm zoom lens and another shot in the same setting but with a prime lens. Can you tell why these two images feel different? Because they do. Here is why prime lenses tend to deliver that extra visual punch. The first thing that we got to talk about is the cinematic depth of field. Prime lenses like the 35mm and the 50mm have wide apertures as low as 1.2 or 1.4, which gives you that shallow depth of field. Perfect for isolating your subject while blurring the background. This really makes the performer stand out and adds that cinematic feel to your shots. It's especially useful for close-ups when you really want to focus in on the subject and soften that background. Secondly, prime lenses offer you a sharpness and image quality that you just can't find in zooms. Primes have fewer internal elements than zooms do. Both the 35mm and the 50mm excel in capturing that crisp, high quality picture. The third thing about primes that serves as a pro is that they are lightweight and they are very easy to balance. Primes are generally more compact and lightweight, which makes them easier to balance on a gimbal, and they're great for handheld or dynamic shots. This is especially crucial when you have a long day of shooting and you need a lighter setup. The next pro of a prime lens is that they are incredible in low light. You can get them all the way down to 1.2 or 1.4, which obviously just allows a lot more light into the camera to hit the sensor. So primes, brilliant in low light. And when compared to zooms, zooms don't go down to f1.2 or 1.4. Prime lenses do have their downsides. Number one, they have limited flexibility. Since primes have a fixed focal length, you have to physically move with your feet and move the actual camera to change your framing. This can slow you down on a fast-paced on-set environment, which takes me to my next downfall, which is that prime lenses are not ideal for run and gun shoots, especially music videos. In situations where you need to move fast, like capturing spontaneous moments or fast-paced performances, the fixed focal length can be incredibly limiting. If you don't have time to change out lenses, you can miss shots. In summary, prime lenses are best for controlled shots where you have time to plan. They offer amazing sharpness, beautiful bokeh, and excellent control over depth of field. But like I said, they are not the most flexible option for fast-paced environments. Now let's talk about zoom lenses, which are known for their flexibility. I used 2 zoom lenses on this music video shoot, the 24 to 70mm as well as the 70 to 200mm.
Go! Now! Yes! Got it!
The first pro for the 24 to 70 millimeter is that it has a very versatile range. You can zoom from 24 millimeters to 70 millimeters, giving you the flexibility to capture both wide and tight shots very quickly. This is very useful when you need to switch between establishing shots and close-ups on the fly. And this leads into my second pro. Because you can easily change your framing, it saves you time on set. With the 24 to 70 millimeter, you can quickly reframe your shot, cutting down on time spent adjusting gear or rebalancing a rig. And this leads me into my third point. The 24 to 70 millimeter gives you increased efficiency on rigs. For example, we had the 24 to 70 on a jib for this shoot. Being able to change focal lengths without needing to rebalance the rig saved us a lot of time, making it easier to capture a variety of shots. If I'd been using a prime lens, I would have had to rebalance every time I swapped out lenses because of the weight difference. Now, because I was making an episode about the lenses for Sony, I did obviously swap lenses and I did put on the primes for the jib, as you can see here. Next, let's talk about the 70 to 200 millimeter zoom lens, the telephoto lens. That is absolute magic. It is excellent for background compression. At 200 millimeters for this specific shot here, the lens was compressing the background in such a way it really made the shot just that much more dynamic and just beautiful. This lens is great for creating a visually dramatic look, especially when you want to emphasize the subject against the setting. And the last pro that I have for this lens is it's versatile for dynamic edits. Using the 70 to 200 millimeters along with other lenses like the 35 millimeter or the 50 millimeter adds variety to your shots, making your final edit that much more dynamic. Cutting between a compressed telephoto shot and a wide angle shot keeps the viewers engaged and makes the video feel more polished and thought out. So zoom lenses are great, but just like primes, they also have their downsides. Zoom lenses are number one, are slightly less sharp. Zoom lenses have more internal elements, which means they aren't as sharp as primes. Think about it. You're capturing an image through more pieces of glass. Obviously, the picture is going to get affected in some way. While the difference is getting smaller as the technology improves, I can still, me personally, recognize it straight away. And the last con for this zoom lens or zoom lenses in general is they are heavier for long handheld shots, which can be tiring for handheld work over very long periods. Lastly, I want to touch on the perfect camera pairing, which is the Sony FX6 and the FX3. Both of the cameras shoot in 10-bit color in S-Log3, which gives you tons of flexibility in the color grade. When you look at this before and after footage, at least for me, it really shows me the amount of depth in the S-Log3 and how much detail is retained and how much you can push and pull those colors. I use the FX6 as my A-cam mostly because of the internal ND filters, which makes shooting in varying lighting conditions that much easier. I often had the FX6 on either the jib or the tripod, while the FX3 was either handheld or balanced on the gimbal, ready to go. This setup allowed me to switch between camera rigs really quickly and move more efficiently on set. By pairing the FX6 and the FX3 and using a mix of prime and zoom lenses, I believe I was able to create a dynamic, high quality music video without sacrificing on speed or flexibility.